review.
What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. For today I am joined for the first time ever by Mike from the Z Review for an OG superhero flick. We're talking about a little 1978 film starring Christopher Reeve as the man, the legend himself, Superman. Superman revolves around, well, Superman, an alien from a distant planet who was sent to Earth when his home planet was destroyed. On Earth, he has superhuman abilities like flight, X-ray vision, super strength, super speed, and his motto is truth, justice, and the American way, as he stops all criminal activity in Metropolis, which poses as a threat to the ever-so-elusive criminal mastermind Lex Luthor, who has come up with the crime of the century involving a fraudulent real estate plot. Now, I've seen this movie I don't even know how many times. Several. I grew up with Superman, and for the longest time, considered him to be my hero. When the internet first started to roll out, for instance, my family did not have a computer, or at least not one that connected to the internet. What we had was something called Web TV, which was a set-top box that connected the TV to the internet through dial-up. It was the stupidest thing ever. But I think fondly back to that time where my first email ever was supermandavid@webtv.net. Since then, I've seen every modern variation of Superman that exists. We're talking about everything Christopher Reeve has ever done, even the ones that aren't considered to be that great. We're talking about Brandon Routh in Superman Returns, Henry Cavill in his films, and when we're talking about TV, I've seen every season of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman at least twice, probably more than that, and all 10 seasons of Smallville at least 5 times minimum. I love this character, and I especially love it when he is presented with as much hope, spirit, and inspiration as Christopher Reeve was known for in this role. And I'll talk about that in a second, but first, I want to throw it to Mike because this was actually his first experience with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, which I think is absolutely crazy. So Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. You can check out his channel, which I've left a link to in my description box below, and you can subscribe and all that junk, and I urge you guys to do that right now. So let's hear what a first experience with Superman was like for an adult in 2021. Take it away.
What's going on, guys? I'm Mike, I'm part of the Z Review, and firstly I want to give a massive thank you to Dave from Interpreting the Stars for having me on this review. I was really thankful that I got asked to do this because, believe it or not, I'm coming up to 31 years old and I've never ever checked out the Superman original films. The only one I've seen is Man of Steel. So I've heard about Christopher Reeve being such an iconic actor and this movie being kind of like such an iconic movie in kind of like cinema cultural history. So I'm sure by now Dave's probably covered kind of like the main plot of this movie. But essentially Superman is learning his powers in the city of Metropolis, and of course comes along the main villain Lex Luthor, who is mainly known to be Superman's main villain, kind of like Joker is to Batman. And yeah, we've got many interpretations of Lex Luthor throughout the years. This one is played by Gene Hackman, and gonna be honest, I think he did a pretty good job. I think for kind of like the style timepiece set back in the 70s when this film was done, I think he fits that perfectly, kind of like Michael Keaton fits like the Batman movies perfectly in that timepiece. I think he did a really good job, and I felt like he kind of did bring kind of such a threat to Superman as such to make him, give him a lot to do. I am going to try to avoid as many spoilers as I can because if you're like me and it's taken you 30 or maybe less years to see this movie, I kind of don't want to spoil it for you guys. I also kind of liked Ned Beatty's kind of sidekick to Lex Luthor of the character Otis. I felt like he brought quite a few like comedic moments to this movie, which generally did still make me laugh even now, you know, more than 30-40 years on from when this film was actually done. So yeah, I really liked his character and I felt like he kind of fit Lex Luthor really well, again for that timepiece and kind of like a more comedic, not so serious role. I felt like that really fit really good in this movie. Now, when it came to our actual superhero, Superman, of course, we've got the awesome Christopher Reeves. And in this movie, it just goes to show like how awesome this guy is, because I felt like he fit this role so well. And I was like, is he better than Henry Cavill? But of course, it's hard to judge because there's two different complete contrasts of Superman movies from two different timepieces. Obviously, Henry Cavill's a more of a serious, darker, grittier superhero thing, whereas Christopher Reeve certainly fit in the part of the 78 version of Superman. Either way, yeah, I thought he was actually really good. But the main thing I liked from the interpretation of this Superman was that they actually kind of from the get-go made Superman look awesome. There wasn't kind of a point in this film where I thought, right, he looks quite weak. He's not very believable as a Superman. I thought, in general, they made him look great, which you need to do, especially when he is the main protagonist, obviously, of this film. I felt like they captured that really well, especially Richard Donner with directing this movie. The first ever film I'd seen of his was Lethal Weapon. Obviously, awesome series, completely different to this review. But yeah, I just felt like Richard Donner kind of brought that really good. And I think the help of John Williams' score as well in this certainly kind of emphasized the superiority of Superman. I just felt like they got the soundtrack right with this movie, and just even kind of the background music while Superman's flying around, obviously besides kind of the main theme playing, or kind of the music that goes along when there's going to be a threat coming, or he's got to save Lois Lane at some point. Just those kind of moments for me, I thought was really well done. Jeff East's interpretation of the teenage Superman, because when we learn a little bit about him when he comes down to Earth and, set years later from when he's a baby and he gets sent down to Earth, I just felt like Jeff East caught that really good. Even though it was really cheesy, you could tell it was green screen. Because at first I thought this was CGI. So when I spoke to Dave, I was like, I don't think some of the CGI kind of holds up as well. But then he said, well, it's no CGI. It's practical effects of green screen. And I thought, oh, shit, okay. But yeah, I felt like they captured that really good. I like the fact that, the green screen is outdated in a lot of these shots. And you can tell that, but you've got to accept it for what it is. I really liked the practical effects in this movie. I thought, especially the beginning scene when Kryptonian is kind of getting dismantled or destroyed. I thought, wow, that looked awesome. Even, again, 30-40 years later, I thought that was a really big standout moment. And I really liked that. I thought that the practical effects in this was really good. Again, the green screen is a bit dated, and that can be kind of a gripe to someone who's looking for that more serious tone, because nowadays we get a lot more serious tone, especially from the DC side of things, my favourite personal franchise. And some people can kind of go into this and be like, look, it's that off-putting, I'm not going to watch this, I'm going to turn this off. For me, I wasn't really too bothered. I thought, yeah, it's outdated, but come on, it's the 70s. It's not going to hold up a green screen effect 40 or so years later compared to now, especially with how it was done. So yeah, I guess that's kind of a minor gripe I had. And the only kind of other one gripe I had, if I was to kind of pick something else, was, for me, it wasn't too bad, but I wish they explored kind of a little bit more about Superman before he actually comes onto the screen, because I noticed it takes around 47 to 48 minutes for him to actually appear in costume. And of a 2-hour 20-film movie, I mean, that can be a little bit where you think, right, can we get a beginning, opening scene with Superman? And I guess that could be kind of a detriment to the film, it takes that long. But yeah, the bit I love the most about this film, if I was to pick one, was just the montage of when Superman finally puts on his suit and he's going around saving different scenarios in Metropolis. I just really loved that montage, and I was like, wow, I wish there was kind of more of that, because it was just really well done. So yeah, in general, I think this movie was awesome. I'm so thankful to Dave for the recommendation for this, otherwise I would never have seen it, and I would have never kind of known of the legacy that Christopher Reeve made. Yeah, honestly, Dave, thank you so much for having me on the channel, guys. Thank you for kind of checking out my thoughts on this as well. Again, I really enjoyed this. And yeah, Dave, back over to you.
Once again, thank you so much for joining me, Mike. I am glad that you had a good time with this movie because it really is a classic, iconic film. Thinking about Christopher Reeve, I'm with the ranks of other people who look at him and have a hard time saying that he's playing Superman because in a lot of ways he was Superman. There's a lot of authenticity to Christopher Reeve when you watch him that never feels forced or fake. That's all him. His charisma that is the foundation of the hope and inspiration that you feel from the character. It's what makes this film so special. And furthermore, it's the reason why later films in the franchise that aren't that great are still watchable, because when Reeve plays Superman, it's just a joy to watch. Past that, Reeve wasn't just good as Superman, he was great as Clark Kent, and so far has been the only actor to ever play Clark Kent this way. That is, he's not just Superman with glasses. His entire persona is the opposite of Superman. Superman, of course, is brave, strong, courageous, and speaks with an authoritative sense of command. And then you have Clark Kent, who is just bumbling, nerdy, weak, stumbles around. Just him standing there, struggling to open that jar of pickles is amazing, for instance, because you can't just make the argument that it's the glasses that hides his identity, because it's his entire outward personality. It's how he carries himself, and no other Clark Kent actor has done that. They've all just basically been the same thing as Superman, just with glasses. I've seen a lot of people praise Henry Cavill's Superman, and he really is great as a down-to-earth human Superman, but his Clark Kent is basically Superman with glasses. Same with Brandon Routh, Dean Cain, Tom Welling. The only person who got Clark Kent right, in my opinion, was Christopher Reeve. Plus, even though Christopher Reeve is at the forefront of praise for this film, it has to be mentioned that everybody does a great job in the movie as well. I love the cast here, including Gene Hackman, who Mike had mentioned. Gene is an actor that reminds me of Jack Nicholson in the 1989 Batman film. Why? Well, because his portrayal of Lex Luthor isn't my favorite version of Lex, just like Nicholson's Joker isn't my favorite version of the Joker. But they are both iconic, and they fit the films like a glove. He's also a funny Lex because he's essentially a classic James Bond villain in what he's trying to do. I don't want to give too much away there, but if you've seen the older James Bond films, you kind of get a good idea about what I'm talking about here. There's just so much in this movie that I appreciate. And Mike, you spoke briefly about the graphics of the film with admiration. And funny enough, if there was one negative that I could say about this movie, it would probably be the graphics. For me, I could always tell when they'd be using miniatures or green screen stuff, and it wasn't always as good as it could have been, I think. I also think the beginning of the film, whether it takes place on Krypton or the Kent farm, is really foggy in terms of visuals and black levels, and I could feel its age. But it's not a huge complaint because once Christopher Reeve finally shows up in the movie, it really feels like it takes off. No pun intended. A bit of a slow start, sure, and plot-wise, I feel like the second movie is better, but it's a good introduction to the Superman character and Christopher Reeve's portrayal. He really was great in this role, and I have yet to see somebody who brings as much hope and spirit into the role as he did in 1978. I'll go ahead and talk about my end score here. From a purely technical, unbiased perspective, like I said, graphically, there were certain aspects that I think could have been approached better, but I also think as far as character development goes, this movie took its time introducing you to Clark and the motivations he has as a hero and what he's willing to do and what kind of rules he's willing to break in order to do the right thing. So the technical score is 84%, but I think this film is much more about personal bias. It's about lifting your spirits and giving people hope. I can't not smile when I watch it. That's why my bias score is nearly perfect at 96%, meaning that when we average everything together, we come to the final rating of 90%, 90 out of 100 possible stars, or an A- letter grade. Mike, I appreciate you doing this with me, and I hope you're game to check out some of the other Christopher Reeve Superman films with me. I think you'll get a kick out of some of them. As for YouTube guys, let me know your thoughts on Superman the movie in the comment section down below. Did you grow up with Reeve in this role? And if so, who do you think has played Superman the best? And how about Clark Kent? As for everything else, make sure that you hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us.